Welcome to Alma Tales Lab, where lying wives and sneaky girlfriends finally get exposed. From girls' trips that never happened to coworkers who are a little too friendly, we break down every red flag, messy receipt, and suspicious text with humor, shock, and just a little bit of petty. Expect wild stories, dramatic reactions, and satisfying karma as the truth comes crashing through the door. If you love relationship tea, plot twists, and seeing players get played, this channel is your new home. Every single chaotic, jaw-dropping, binge-worthy episode. Hit subscribe and never miss a fresh dose of exposed cheating. Don't forget to check our previous stories. Let's get into it. The cruelest thing my girlfriend, Monique Caldwell, ever did was grab my belly at a crowded birthday dinner in Arlington, Virginia, squeeze it like a prop, and say, "This is why you're broke." Then she laughed like it was normal, like my body and my money were community property. Here's how it happened. The restaurant was one of those polished places near Clarendon, with exposed brick, soft lighting, and menus that make simple food sound expensive. I was seated between her friends, smiling, trying to keep the mood light. When Monique reached across the table, I assumed she was going to hold my hand. Instead, she pinched my stomach through my shirt, leaned in like she was telling a secret, and turned it into a joke for everyone to share. I remember the split-second silence before the laughter caught up. A few people chuckled because they did not know what else to do. One friend looked down at her plate like she wished she could disappear. The waiter hovered, pretending not to notice. I smiled because I could already hear Monique later. "You always make everything so serious." I swallowed my pride the way I had been swallowing it for months, quietly, neatly, like it would go down easier if I didn't chew. On the drive back to our place in Crystal City, Monique replayed it like a highlight reel. She laughed again, tapping the steering wheel to the music, delighted with herself. When I said, calmly, that she embarrassed me, she glanced over and smirked. "You are too sensitive," she said, like sensitivity was a character flaw. Then she turned the music up and rolled the window down like my feelings were smoke she wanted out of the car. It wasn't always like that. When we first met in D.C., she was warm, playful, and sharp in a way that made me feel chosen. We went on dates that felt effortless, late-night walks by the monuments, spontaneous ice cream runs, and Sunday mornings where we argued about which brunch spot had the best waffles. Monique used to slip her hand into mine and say, jokingly, "I like a man with a plan." I believed her because my life was steady and I thought steady was enough. I work as a logistics coordinator for a medical supply company in Northern Virginia. It is not glamorous, but it matters. Orders arrive on time, hospitals stay stocked, and problems get solved before most people even notice there was a problem. Monique called herself an entrepreneur, always talking about her brand, always starting something new. In the beginning, it was exciting. We made jokes about being a power couple, and I liked how she could make a simple grocery run feel like an adventure. Some of our best moments were silly. She once tried to teach me a dance in the kitchen while pasta boiled over, and we laughed so hard we had to open the windows. On a weekend trip to Baltimore's Inner Harbor, she insisted we ride scooters, then screamed when a pigeon flew too close, clinging to my arm like I was her bodyguard. I loved her then, loudly in my heart, quietly in my actions, paying attention, showing up, taking pictures of her when she asked, pretending not to notice when she checked them like a director reviewing a scene. The shift started small, disguised as jokes. If I ordered something healthy, she called it poor people discipline. If I talked about budgeting, she called it small thinking. One night at a rooftop bar in D.C., she introduced me as the guy who makes sure the lights stay on, and everyone laughed. I laughed too, because I thought it was harmless. Later, when I asked why she could not just say my name and my job title, she shrugged and said, "Relax. It's not that deep." Her first cruel treatment with consequences happened over my car. I drive a reliable sedan that has never left me stranded. Monique started calling it the struggle mobile in front of her friends, joking that it looked like it came with a free headache. The week she pushed that joke the hardest, she insisted we take her car to a networking event in Tyson's. Halfway there, her tire pressure light flashed, and the tire went flat. We sat on the shoulder while her friends texted, impatient. She blamed me for bad energy. The next time she tried to embarrass me, was at a small cookout in Alexandria with her friends. She asked loudly if I was still doing that warehouse thing, even though she knew exactly what I did. When I corrected her, she tilted her head and said, "Same difference." 10 minutes later, she knocked over a tray of drinks while trying to take a selfie, soaking her own outfit. Everyone laughed, gently, not cruelly, and she glared as if the universe had picked a side. She never connected the dots. She just grew meaner. Monique also had a habit of borrowing confidence and calling it love. She would hype herself up in public, then chip away at me in private. If I got a compliment, she found a way to redirect it. "He's dependable," she'd say, "but he plays it safe." When I started going to gym to feel better, she made it a punchline. "Look at you," she'd tease, trying to turn into somebody. Then she'd laugh like she was doing me a favor by keeping me humble. We still had romantic moments, which is what made the cruelty confusing. She could kiss my cheek in the morning and text me heart emojis by lunch. She could curl up beside me during a movie and laugh at the same jokes I laughed at. She once surprised me with tickets to a comedy show in D.C., and we laughed until our faces hurt. On the walk back, she leaned into me and admitted she liked how calm I was. That made me stay because calm felt like commitment. The funny scenes became minefields. At a friend's game night in Silver Spring, I made a harmless joke about Monique never reading instructions, and she smiled too wide. 10 minutes later, she announced to the room that I still count pennies like it's a hobby. People laughed, and she watched me instead of the room, studying my reaction like it was entertainment. Later, when I told her it was hurtful, she said, "If you are that insecure, that's your problem." She started involving her friends more. Group dinners, group trips, group opinions. If I disagreed with Monique privately, she would bring it up publicly, twisted to make me look unreasonable. At a brunch in National Harbor, she asked if I had finally found a second job because bills do not pay themselves. Then, as if karma was keeping a receipt, the card reader at the restaurant glitched, only when she tried to pay. The server apologized, but Monique's smile tightened like a mask slipping. The birthday dinner in Arlington was the peak of her public cruelty. The belly grab was not just disrespect, it was ownership. It told everyone at that table I was safe to mock. Afterward, Monique posted pictures from the night and captioned them like we were perfect. I stared at the photos, wondering how someone could frame happiness while I fell hollow. When I tried to talk, she laughed and asked if I wanted her to issue a press release to apologize. No remorse, no softness, just control. The suffering after that was quiet and constant. I stopped inviting my friends around because Monique would find ways to belittle me. I started working later because my home felt smaller. When I did come home, she treated me like a wallet with legs. She'd list her business needs at the kitchen counter like she was reading off a grocery list. If I hesitated, she would say, "This is why you will always be broke," as if my boundaries were the problem, not her entitlement. Each time she tried to humiliate me, karma answered in practical ways. When she mocked my meal prep, calling it sad, her fancy takeout order got mixed up 3 times in 1 week. When she joked that my shoes looked discount, she tripped on her own heels outside a restaurant, scuffing the pair she bragged about all night. When she teased me for using coupons, her online order got canceled after she posted about early. Small things, but consistent, like the world correcting her without needing my help. I stopped arguing because arguing fed her. Instead, I got strategic. I opened a new bank account and changed my direct deposit. I did not announce it. I registered for a supply chain analytics certificate at night and studied while she scrolled on the couch. I began tracking every shared expense, saving screenshots and confirmations the way my job taught me. Quietly, accurately, without drama. When Monique asked why I was acting weird, I smiled and said, "I'm focused." That annoyed her more than any argument. Monique tested me when she asked for money the way she always did. Casual, confident, like refusal was not an option. "I need you to cover this invoice," she said one Tuesday, leaning on the counter. I looked up from my laptop and said calmly, "No." She blinked, then laughed like I had said something cute. "You do not get to say no," she replied. Then she called me selfish, as if my money had always belonged to her, and I was the one changing the rules. 2 mornings later, A certified letter arrived with my name on it from a lender I did not recognize. I opened it at the table, coffee cooling beside my hand. It was about an account I never opened with a balance I never agreed to. My stomach dropped, not from fear of her, but from the realization that she had been using my stability like a credit line. I did not yell. I read every page twice. Then I called a lawyer in Alexandria and asked what my next steps were. The credit report made everything painfully clear. Multiple accounts, different dates, my information but her email, my identity but her phone number. I sat there feeling betrayed in a way that made the room feel too bright. When Monique came home that night cheerful, carrying shopping bags, I watched her set them down like she had nothing to hide. She said she needed to talk about upgrading her car. I slid the papers across the table, and her smile did not soften. It sharpened. "So, you're accusing me?" she snapped, offended by accountability. When I asked why my name was on things I never agreed to, she leaned back and shrugged. "That's what partners do," she said. "Handle it. No apology. No shame." She looked at me like I was failing a test she designed. That was the moment I understood I was not her boyfriend in her mind. I was a tool. I was a backup plan. I was something to squeeze and laugh at. I handed her a folder of my own, lease approval in my name only, confirmation of my updated direct deposit, and documentation showing my credit had been frozen. She laughed at first, then got angry when she realized I was serious. "You cannot leave," she said, as if she had the authority to decide. A day later, karma came again. Her client backed out of a supposed contract after discovering she could not deliver inventory on time. She screamed at the phone. I stayed quiet. When I filed the identity theft report and disputed the fraudulent accounts with my lawyer's guidance, the process was not dramatic. It was thorough. Investigations follow trails. Emails, phone numbers, payment histories, patterns. Monique acted like she could bully consequences the way she bullied me. She could not. 2 days later, she got a call from the lender while I was in the living room. Her voice changed from confident to strained, and she looked at me like she wanted me to rescue her from reality. "Fix this," she hissed when she covered the microphone. I did not move. When she ended the call, she was shaking with rage, not remorse. "They said I could be charged," she spat, like the idea was unfair. I nodded once and told her, evenly, "You made choices with my name." She tried to pivot into blame. "You ruined my life," she said. She did not say sorry. She did not admit she was wrong. She simply hated that I stopped letting her win. Her cruelty kept collecting consequences. Friends who once laughed at her jokes began avoiding her calls when she asked for help. Her cousin, who used to clap at her insults, suddenly did not want to get involved. A co-worker she bragged about impressing stopped responding after hearing she was in a situation. Monique tried to throw a small dinner to prove she was fine, but 2 guests canceled at the last minute. She sat at the table staring at her phone, furious at everyone except herself. I packed quietly in the bedroom. My exit was private, clean, and final. No shouting, no revenge monologues. Just me loading boxes into my car at dawn and leaving my keys on the counter. Monique stood in the doorway with crossed arms and a cruel smile, watching like she was waiting for me to beg. "You are still broke," she said, reaching for the last insult like it was a comfort blanket. I looked at her and replied, calm as ever, "You confuse control with love." Then I walked out. The next months were about rebuilding without an audience. I moved into a modest apartment near work and slept through the night. I finished my certificate course, applying what I learned to real problems at my job. I started running again, not to impress anyone, but to hear my own breathing and remember I belonged to myself. I cooked simple meals and laughed at my own mistakes, like when I tried to flip an omelet and it landed half on the stove. Funny moments returned, softer and safer. My personal success showed up as stability I did not advertise. My manager noticed my work and gave me a raise that I told almost no one about. I paid down debt and watched my savings grow. I learned to enjoy quiet weekends, farmers markets in Old Town Alexandria, bookstore browsing in D.C., movies alone where nobody judged my popcorn order. The humor in my life stopped being at my expense. It became mine again. Monique's voice in my head grew smaller, like a radio fading out as you drive away. The last update I heard about Monique came indirectly and without celebration. She was still blaming everyone, still refusing accountability, still calling me soft, as if cruelty is strength. But her options had narrowed, financially, socially, and emotionally, because she burned trust like it was fuel. I did not reach out. I did not gloat. I just sat in my quiet living room, looked at the clean numbers in my account, felt my own peace settle in, and understood the real karma was that she lost access to me. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.